Imagine a room filled with individuals from every corner of the world, some lost in their inner thoughts, others passionately debating, a few quietly observing, and some commanding the attention of the entire room. What if I told you that these behaviors aren't random, but instead, they reveal the deep, intrinsic patterns of how we perceive the world, make decisions, and navigate life? What if our unique ways of being, our strengths, struggles, and preferences, were rooted in timeless archetypes that shape not only our personalities, but the way we connect with others? Welcome to the profound world of Carl Jung's psychological types, a groundbreaking exploration into the human psyche that has influenced modern psychology, self-awareness, and even how we define ourselves in personality frameworks like the MBTI. This isn't just another book about personality, it's a map of the mind, a guide to understanding the forces that drive us and those around us. Jung invites us to see personality not as rigid labels or shallow categories, but as the living, dynamic interplay of two opposing forces, introversion and extroversion. Are you energized by the inner world of thoughts, or do you thrive in the bustling energy of social interactions? And beyond that, how do you process information through tangible facts and details, or by seeing patterns, ideas, and possibilities? But Jung doesn't stop there. He delves deeper into our minds, exploring the functions we use to interpret reality, thinking and feeling, sensing and intuition. Have you ever wondered why some people are guided by logic and reason, while others make decisions based on emotions and values? Why some trust their immediate senses and others look for the abstract meaning behind everything? This book offers answers that go beyond surface-level traits, touching the very essence of what makes us human. In these pages, Jung not only categorizes but illuminates. He shows us how these psychological types influence art, politics, relationships, and even religion. He challenges us to recognize our natural tendencies while embracing the differences in others, creating space for both self-acceptance and mutual understanding. But here's the twist: Jung doesn't tell us who we are. Instead, he hands us the mirror and invites us to look closely. Are we willing to confront the dualities within ourselves, the introvert and the extrovert, the thinker and the feeler, the intuitive and the sensor? Are we ready to uncover the dormant parts of our personality that hold the key to our growth? So, whether you've ever felt misunderstood, yearned to understand others more deeply, or simply wanted to uncover the truth about yourself, Psychological Types is your doorway. It's more than a book, it's a revelation, a tool for navigating the labyrinth of the human mind. And today, we'll journey through its insights to uncover not only what it means to be you, but what it means to be human. Are you ready to step into the world of Carl Jung and discover the hidden forces shaping your mind? Let's begin. Part 1 Summary of Psychological Types by Carl Jung. Psychological Types by Carl Jung is a groundbreaking work that introduces one of the most important theories in the history of psychology, the categorization of personality types. In Part 1, Jung lays the foundation for understanding the vast complexity of human personality. He tells the story of how people's psychological tendencies and perspectives influence their thinking, feeling, and behaviors, creating a framework for analyzing not just individuals, but society as a whole. Jung weaves an intricate tapestry of thought, blending philosophy, psychology, and even mythology to help the reader understand what drives human differences. Setting the stage, why do we perceive the world differently? Imagine two people standing in front of the same painting in a museum. One is captivated by the vivid colors and the emotional intensity of the scene. The other is preoccupied with the technical precision of the brushstrokes and the historical significance of the artwork. Why is it that two people, given the same stimulus, perceive and respond to it so differently? This is the question that Carl Jung sets out to explore. From the very beginning, he acknowledges the struggle humans face in understanding one another. Our perceptions, decisions, and even our emotional responses are shaped by a dynamic interplay of psychological tendencies that are deeply ingrained but not always understood. Jung invites the reader to embark on a journey of self-discovery, with the promise that by understanding these psychological types, we can unlock a new level of compassion for ourselves and others. The battle of opposites, introversion and extroversion. Jung begins his exploration by introducing two primary orientations of the human psyche, introversion and extroversion. He doesn't present these as mere personality traits, but as fundamental ways of engaging with the world. The introvert. For the introvert, the inner world of thoughts, imagination, and reflection is paramount. They are like a river flowing quietly under the surface, rich with depth, but less visible to the outside world. Introverts derive energy from solitude and contemplation, often finding external stimulation overwhelming. Jung describes them as cautious, inward-focused, and inclined toward the abstract. The extrovert. In contrast, the extrovert thrives in the external world of people, actions, and events. They are like a bonfire, blazing with energy and drawing others into their warmth. Extroverts gain vitality from interactions and are often outwardly expressive, direct, and action-oriented. But Jung doesn't stop at the definitions. He paints vivid portraits of these types, telling the story of how they live, love, and navigate the world. The introvert and extrovert, he explains, are not better or worse than one another. They are complementary forces, each with their strengths and blind spots. Imagine an introverted poet and an extrovert entrepreneur having a conversation. The poet might be lost in thought, contemplating the deeper meaning of life, while the entrepreneur eagerly discusses their latest venture. Their worlds collide, but in that collision, something extraordinary can emerge, a fusion of depth and action, of introspection and boldness. The four functions of consciousness: thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition. Once Jung establishes the foundational divide between introversion and extroversion, he takes the reader deeper into the psyche, introducing the four functions of consciousness. These are the mental processes that guide how we perceive and interact with the world. 1. Thinking. Thinking is the function of logic, analysis, and objectivity. It's the voice that asks, does this make sense? Jung describes thinkers as the architects of the mind, building structures of understanding and seeking clarity in the chaos of experience. 2. Feeling. Feeling is not about fleeting emotions, but about values, ethics, and subjective evaluation. It's the function that asks, how do I feel about this? Feelers are the harmonizers, guided by empathy and connection. 3. Sensing. Sensing is the function of the tangible and concrete. It's the ability to live in the present moment, to see, hear, touch, and experience the world as it is. Sensing types are grounded, practical, and deeply attuned to the physical environment. 4. Intuition. Intuition is the function of possibility, imagination, and foresight. It's the voice that says, what could this become? Intuitive types are dreamers and visionaries, always looking beyond the immediate to the larger patterns and meanings. Jung masterfully interweaves these functions with the introversion and extroversion orientations, creating a matrix of 8 psychological types. Each type represents a unique way of navigating life, offering a distinct perspective on reality. The interplay of types, harmony, and conflict. Jung's narrative becomes especially compelling when he describes the interplay of psychological types in relationships, workplaces, and society. He likens these interactions to a symphony, each type playing its part, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in dissonance. Harmony. When different types come together with mutual respect and understanding, they can complement one another beautifully. The logical thinker might collaborate with the intuitive dreamer to create a visionary yet practical plan. The sensitive feeler might balance the pragmatic sensor, ensuring that decisions are not only effective but also humane. Conflict. However, when types clash, the result can be frustration and misunderstanding. The extrovert might see the introvert as aloof or unengaged, while the introvert might view the extrovert as overwhelming or superficial. Similarly, thinkers and feelers can struggle to see eye to eye, with one prioritizing logic and the other prioritizing emotional impact. Through rich anecdotes and case studies, Jung shows how these dynamics play out in real life. He encourages readers to embrace the differences rather than resist them, seeing them as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. The cultural dimension: how societies favor types. In a fascinating twist, Jung explores how cultural norms and values shape the expression of psychological types. He observes that some societies tend to favor extroversion, rewarding those who are outgoing, assertive, and action-oriented. Others may value introversion, placing a premium on reflection, contemplation, and inner wisdom. Jung's analysis transcends individual psychology, offering insights into how societal biases influence collective behavior. He challenges readers to question these biases and to celebrate the full spectrum of human personality. The call to self-awareness. The first part of Psychological Types concludes with a powerful call to self-awareness. Jung emphasizes that understanding your psychological type is not about putting yourself in a box. Instead, it's about recognizing your natural tendencies, appreciating your strengths, and working on your blind spots. He leaves the reader with a sense of curiosity and empowerment. The journey of self-discovery, he suggests, is not about achieving perfection, but about embracing the richness of who you are and who you can become. Part 2 Summary of Psychological Types by Carl Jung. In Part 2 of Psychological Types, Carl Jung expands his analysis of human personality by delving into the deeper implications of his framework. While Part 1 introduces the foundational concepts of introversion, extroversion, and the 4 functions of consciousness: thinking, feeling, sensing, and intuition, Part 2 takes these ideas to new depths. Jung explores how psychological types influence creativity, relationships, and personal development, all while weaving a narrative that keeps readers engaged with thought-provoking anecdotes and cultural insights. This section is where Jung's ideas begin to blossom, showing us not only how these types function individually, but also how they interact dynamically with the world around them. It's a masterclass in understanding the subtle interplay between personality, creativity, and human potential. The dance of creativity: psychological types in art and science. One of the most fascinating aspects of Part 2 is Jung's exploration of how psychological types shape creativity. He proposes that the inner psychological orientation of a person, introversion or extroversion, and their dominant function, thinking, feeling, sensing, or intuition, profoundly influence the type of creativity they express. Introverted creativity. Jung describes introverted creators as being deeply introspective and inwardly focused. Their creative work often emerges from a process of internal exploration, where they draw from the wellspring of their imagination and personal experiences. For example, an introverted intuitive artist might create abstract works that challenge conventional perceptions of reality, while an introverted thinker might develop groundbreaking scientific theories that change the way we understand the world. Jung highlights figures like German philosopher Immanuel Kant, whose introspective and systematic approach to understanding human perception revolutionized philosophy. For Jung, such individuals exemplify the power of introverted creativity, where the focus is on the internal world and its ability to transform external reality. Extrovert creativity. In contrast, extrovert creators thrive on engagement with the external world. Their work is often shaped by interactions, events, and observations. An extrovert sensor might excel in the fine arts, capturing the vibrancy of life with exquisite detail, while an extrovert thinker might design practical systems or innovations that address real-world problems. Jung uses the example of famous political leaders and inventors who draw from external stimuli to fuel their creativity. These individuals channel their psychological energy outward, using their environment as both inspiration and audience for their work. Psychological types in relationships: the push and pull of opposites. Jung's discussion of relationships in this section is both profound and relatable. He explains that our psychological type influences not only how we see ourselves, but also how we perceive and interact with others. This dynamic often leads to both harmony and conflict, especially in close relationships. The magnetism of opposites. Jung observes that people are often drawn to partners or friends with complementary psychological types. For instance, a highly introverted intuitive might be captivated by the energy and spontaneity of an extrovert sensor. This dynamic creates balance, with each partner offering strengths the other may lack. However, these differences can also lead to misunderstanding. The introvert may feel overwhelmed by the extrovert's need for constant activity, while the extrovert might perceive the introvert as withdrawn or disengaged. Jung encourages readers to embrace these differences as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles. The shadow in relationships. One of Jung's most intriguing ideas in Part 2 is the concept of the shadow. This is the part of our psyche that we often suppress or deny, and it frequently comes to light in relationships. For example, an extrovert thinker might reject their own intuitive side, only to be confronted with it in a partner who embodies intuition. Jung suggests that relationships serve as mirrors, reflecting back the parts of ourselves we need to acknowledge and integrate. By understanding our psychological type and that of our partner, we can navigate these dynamics with greater awareness and compassion. Cultural archetypes and psychological types. Moving beyond the individual, Jung explores how psychological types manifest on a cultural and societal level. He argues that different societies tend to favor certain psychological orientations, creating cultural archetypes that shape collective behavior. Extrovert societies. Jung notes that Western cultures, particularly in his time, often emphasize extroversion. These societies celebrate action, achievement, and outward expression. The extrovert type thrives in such environments, where energy is focused on the external world. However, Jung cautions that this extrovert bias can lead to an undervaluing of introverted qualities like reflection, depth, and inner exploration. He uses historical examples to illustrate how societies that neglect their introverted side can become unbalanced, prioritizing external success at the expense of internal fulfillment. Introverted societies. In contrast, Jung describes certain Eastern cultures as being more introverted in orientation. These societies often emphasize meditation, introspection, and the pursuit of inner wisdom. The introverted type flourishes in such contexts, where the inner world is valued as a source of insight and strength. Jung's exploration of cultural archetypes invites readers to consider how their own environment influences their psychological development. He challenges us to question societal norms and to seek balance between the inward and outward aspects of life. The journey of individuation, becoming whole. A central theme in Part 2 is the concept of individuation, which Jung describes as the process of becoming fully oneself. This journey involves integrating all aspects of the psyche, introversion and extroversion, thinking and feeling, sensing and intuition, into a harmonious whole. Embracing the inferior function. Jung emphasizes the importance of embracing one's inferior function, or the aspect of personality that is least developed. For example, a person who is highly logical, thinking dominant, might struggle with emotions, feeling. By working to understand and integrate this inferior function, they can achieve greater balance and self-awareness. The role of symbols and dreams. Jung also introduces the idea that symbols and dreams play a crucial role in the process of individuation. These elements serve as bridges between the conscious and unconscious mind, helping individuals access hidden aspects of themselves. For Jung, the journey of self-discovery is not just a rational process, but a deeply symbolic and intuitive one. A story of transformation. To illustrate his ideas, Jung shares compelling stories of individuals who have undergone profound transformations through the process of individuation. He tells of a young woman who, initially dominated by her introverted thinking, learned to embrace her extrovert feeling side, leading to a richer and more fulfilling life. Jung's storytelling is both captivating and inspiring, drawing readers into the lives of these individuals and showing them the potential for growth within their own psyche. The call to balance. Part 2 concludes with a call to balance. Jung urges readers to honor the full spectrum of psychological types, both within themselves and in others. By doing so, we can not only achieve personal growth, but also contribute to a more harmonious and understanding society. This section leaves readers with a sense of hope and possibility, encouraging them to embrace the journey of self-discovery with courage and curiosity. Part 3 will delve even deeper into the implications of Jung's theories, exploring their application in various fields and their relevance to the modern world. Stay tuned for the final chapter of this profound exploration into the human psyche. Part 3 Summary of Psychological Types by Carl Jung. Part 3 of Psychological Types serves as the culmination of Jung's theories, where he synthesizes his insights and applies them to broader contexts. In this section, Jung reveals the far-reaching implications of psychological types in areas such as philosophy, religion, literature, and the collective unconscious. The tone becomes increasingly profound and visionary as Jung invites readers to consider the practical and transformative power of understanding their own type and the types of others. This final section deepens the philosophical richness of the book while keeping the reader captivated by weaving psychological theory with compelling cultural and personal narratives. It's here that Jung's work moves beyond psychology into a realm that speaks to the very nature of humanity, creativity, and the search for meaning. Psychological Types and Philosophy, a bridge between inner and outer worlds. Jung opens Part 3 by exploring how psychological types influence philosophical thought. Philosophy, Jung argues, is a reflection of human attempts to understand the world, and different types approach this endeavor in unique ways. Thinking and feeling in philosophy. Jung highlights how thinking-dominant individuals often create systems of logic and abstract reasoning, producing philosophies that are analytical and objective. For example, thinkers like René Descartes emphasized rationality and the separation of mind and matter, reflecting the dominance of the thinking function. On the other hand, feeling-dominant philosophers, such as Jean-Jacques Rousseau, focus on the human experience, emotions, and values. Their work often centers on ethics and the role of compassion and empathy in shaping societies. Jung's insight is that these two approaches, while different, are complementary. The interplay of thinking and feeling in philosophy mirrors the need for balance within individuals and cultures. Intuition and sensing in philosophy. Jung also examines how intuition and sensing influence philosophical perspectives. Intuitive philosophers often explore metaphysical questions, pushing boundaries to imagine what lies beyond the visible and tangible world. Jung cites Plato as an example, whose allegory of the cave reflects an intuitive understanding of reality as something deeper than appearances. Conversely, sensing-dominant philosophers ground their ideas in concrete observation and experience. Empiricists like John Locke and David Hume emphasize the importance of sensory data in shaping knowledge, offering a counterbalance to intuitive speculation. Religion and the collective unconscious, the spiritual dimension of psychological types. Jung's discussion of religion in Part 3 is one of the book's most compelling and thought-provoking sections. He delves into the psychological underpinnings of religious belief, rituals, and experiences, showing how psychological types influence spirituality. The role of archetypes. Jung introduces the concept of archetypes, which are universal symbols and patterns that emerge from the collective unconscious. These archetypes, such as the hero, the mother, and the shadow, are deeply embedded in religious traditions and myths across cultures. For example, Jung connects the intuitive function to the visionary experiences of prophets and mystics, who perceive truths that transcend ordinary understanding. Meanwhile, the sensing function is reflected in the rituals and tangible practices of religion, which ground spirituality in the physical world. Introversion and extroversion in spirituality. Jung also explores how introversion and extroversion shape religious experiences. Introverted individuals may gravitate toward inward-focused practices like meditation, contemplation, and mysticism, seeking a personal connection with the divine. In contrast, Extrovert individuals may find meaning in communal worship, missionary work, and outward expressions of faith. Jung emphasizes that both approaches are valid and necessary for a holistic understanding of spirituality. Psychological types in literature and art, the soul of creativity. Building on his earlier exploration of creativity, Jung delves deeper into how psychological types influence literature and art. He demonstrates how authors and artists express their dominant types through their work, creating diverse forms of storytelling and aesthetic experiences. The writer's type. Jung uses examples from literature to illustrate the impact of psychological types on storytelling. An intuitive writer, for instance, might craft imaginative and symbolic tales, as seen in the works of William Blake or Franz Kafka. Their stories often delve into the unconscious and explore universal themes. In contrast, a sensing writer might focus on detailed, realistic depictions of life, as exemplified by authors like Jane Austen or Charles Dickens. Their works bring the tangible world to life, capturing the nuances of everyday existence. The artist's vision. Jung applies a similar analysis to visual art, exploring how different types shape an artist's style and subject matter. He highlights the visionary works of intuitive artists like Vincent van Gogh, whose paintings are infused with emotional intensity and symbolic meaning. Meanwhile, sensing artists like Johannes Vermeer create works that celebrate the beauty of the physical world, capturing light, texture, and form with exquisite precision. The integration of psychological types, the path to wholeness. In the final chapters of Part 3, Jung returns to the concept of individuation, emphasizing the importance of integrating all psychological types within oneself. He describes this process as a lifelong journey of self-discovery and growth, requiring courage, introspection, and a willingness to embrace one's shadow. Balancing the functions. Jung explains that while everyone has a dominant function, personal growth requires developing the inferior functions. For example, a thinking dominant person must learn to engage with their feelings, while a sensing dominant person should cultivate their intuition. This integration leads to greater balance and psychological wholeness. The role of the shadow. The shadow, Jung reiterates, is a crucial aspect of individuation. By confronting and integrating the parts of ourselves that we often reject or deny, we can achieve a deeper understanding of who we are. Jung uses vivid examples to illustrate how this process can transform individuals, helping them overcome inner conflicts and discover their true potential. A vision for humanity, psychological types in society. Jung concludes psychological types with a visionary reflection on the role of psychological understanding in creating a better world. He argues that by recognizing and appreciating the diversity of psychological types, societies can foster greater empathy, cooperation, and innovation. The harmony of differences. Jung emphasizes that no single psychological type is superior to another. Each type brings unique strengths and perspectives, and the interplay of these differences is what drives human progress. He encourages readers to celebrate diversity and to approach others with curiosity and compassion. The future of psychology. Jung's final message is one of hope and possibility. He envisions a future where psychology serves as a bridge between individuals, cultures, and nations, promoting understanding and unity. His work, he suggests, is only the beginning of a journey that each reader must continue in their own way. A timeless legacy. As Part 3 comes to a close, readers are left with a profound appreciation for Jung's insights into the human psyche. Psychological Types is not just a book about personality, it's a guide to understanding ourselves and the world around us. Jung's ideas resonate across time, offering a timeless framework for personal growth, creativity, and connection. Through his rich storytelling and deep psychological analysis, Jung invites us to embark on our own journey of individuation, discovering the unique blend of psychological types that make us who we are. It's a journey that promises not only self-discovery, but also a deeper connection to the shared humanity that unites us all. Thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon to get new video updates. Happy learning!